Losing track of where you put your keys, not being able to recall the name of someone standing in front of you for a few seconds, walking into the kitchen and forgetting why you went there. These are things that happen to most of us, but is this forgetfulness just an ordinary side effect of daily life, or could it be a sign that deserves more careful attention? In this video, we will talk about when forgetfulness may be a normal situation, when it may need closer evaluation, and what the strongest everyday factors are that affect memory. First, let's clearly distinguish between normal forgetfulness and situations that require attention. Forgetfulness is not by itself the name of a disease. It's more of a symptom, a complaint, or sometimes simply an experience brought on by the pace of our busy lives. The brain does not record every piece of information it encounters throughout the day with the same level of importance. For information to be remembered later, it must first be noticed, then processed, then reinforced under the right conditions. After that, it must also be retrieved. If the first link in that chain is weak, it often appears as forgetfulness. That is why what we call a memory problem does not always mean that the brain is unable to store information. Sometimes the information was never properly recorded in the first place. For example, if someone is telling you something while you are looking at your phone at the same time, you probably will not be able to remember what they said a few minutes later. In other words, for information to settle into memory, your attention first has to be focused on it. This can happen very often, especially in people who are tired, stressed, or dealing with multiple stimuli at the same time. In addition to this, age should also be mentioned. As people get older, some cognitive changes can occur. Taking longer to find a word, not being able to recall a name immediately, or needing a cue to remember certain details can be examples of this. But situations that disrupt daily life, make routine tasks harder, or affect navigation, decision-making, or money management should be evaluated differently. In other words, getting older is one thing. Cognitive decline that disrupts daily life is another. This cannot be considered a normal part of aging. In this video, we will try to cover the following topics within a scientific framework: everyday forgetfulness, reversible causes, and situations that may require professional evaluation. One of the most common causes of forgetfulness in daily life is actually an attention problem. The human brain does not work like a recording device with unlimited capacity. It behaves more like a selective filter. During the day, we move among dozens of messages, notifications, conversations, plans, tasks, and thoughts. It is quite difficult for the brain to process all of this information strongly. So divided attention and intense stimulation can result a few minutes or a few hours later in the feeling of, why can't I remember this? So is the problem really in memory, or is the information not being processed properly from the very beginning? Sometimes the problem is not in memory, but at the gateway to memory. If we do not give full attention to a piece of information, it may not leave a strong enough trace to be recalled later. That is why what you call "my memory is very bad" may actually be "I am too distracted to focus properly." The pace of modern life is important at this point. Constant screen switching, the habit of doing several things at once, and frequent interruptions in attention can increase the feeling of mental clutter. But it's important to be careful here. Science does not say that a single digital habit produces the same result in everyone. So a flat statement like "phone use causes forgetfulness" is too strong. A more accurate way to put it is this: constantly interrupted attention may reduce the quality of information processing in some people, and this may increase the feeling of forgetfulness. But the issue is not only attention. Even if information is taken in, sleep plays a major role in making it last. Sleep is not just rest. It's an active process in which the brain organizes the information it received during the day, filters it, and makes some of it more permanent. In other words, some of the information we learn during the day is processed again during sleep. For this reason, insufficient or poor quality sleep can weaken the process of memory consolidation, leading to more difficulty learning the next day and more frequent forgetfulness. Here, not only sleep duration matters, but also sleep quality. On paper, a person might have slept for 8 hours, But if they wake up frequently during the night, have breathing problems during sleep, or get up in the morning feeling unrested, the brain's recovery and consolidation processes may not work efficiently. That is why some people say, "I sleep a lot, but my mind still feels foggy." Sometimes the problem is not the number of hours, but the structure of sleep itself. And biological rest is not the only thing that affects memory. Stress can also seriously interfere with this picture. When under stress, many people say, "It feels like my mind has stopped," or "I can't gather my thoughts at all." There's a scientific basis for this. Intense and especially chronic stress can negatively affect the brain networks involved in learning and memory. This can make it harder to retrieve information. This effect is not the same for everyone, but that's the general tendency. An important point here is that stress affects memory not only on a biological level, but also on a behavioral one. Stressed people might sleep worse, be more inattentive, try to keep up with more things at once, and stay mentally occupied with internal dialogue. In this way, forgetfulness may not arise from a single cause, but from the combination of several causes. In other words, stress, distraction, and sleep disruption can create a domino effect that results in noticeable forgetfulness. In addition, anxiety and depressive symptoms may also affect this picture. In some people, the main problem is not the brain's capacity to store memory, but difficulty focusing, mental slowing, or constantly revolving around the same thoughts. Because the person cannot process incoming information properly, they later feel forgetful. That is why there is often a close relationship between mood and memory complaints. So in that case, can we attribute every instance of forgetfulness to stress? No, it's not the right approach to directly connect stress and forgetfulness in every case. The picture is not the same in every person. In some people, stress may be the main cause. In others, it may simply worsen the overall picture. Sometimes stress, sleep, medications, nutrition, and general health all play a role together.
Official health sources state that medication side effects, sleep problems, depression and anxiety, alcohol or substance use, vitamin B12 deficiency, poor nutrition, thyroid problems, and conditions such as liver or kidney disease may contribute to memory complaints. For example, some medications may cause drowsiness. This can lead to reduced attention and slower processing speed. That in turn may make a person think, "I feel forgetful." Similarly, some metabolic problems or nutritional deficiencies can make it harder for the nervous system to function efficiently. This does not mean that every complaint of forgetfulness must be caused by a deficiency, but it may create a situation worth evaluating.
A common mistake here is using supplements randomly. Expressions like brain vitamin, memory booster, or mind enhancer may sound very appealing. But from the perspective of strong scientific evidence, it is difficult to say that supplements used without a confirmed deficiency improve memory in a meaningful and consistent way. Especially the idea that forgetfulness can be solved with a single pill does not match reality. That is why a safer approach is to look at the overall pattern rather than jumping to conclusions on your own. If forgetfulness is accompanied by marked fatigue, weight changes, mood changes, heavy alcohol use, newly started medications, or other neurological symptoms, it may make more sense to discuss it with a professional. The goal here is not to make a diagnosis, but to review potentially reversible factors. The most critical question is this: is every instance of forgetfulness a warning sign? No, but some patterns require more careful evaluation. For example, repeatedly asking the same questions, repeatedly forgetting recent events, having trouble doing familiar tasks, getting disoriented, being unable to manage finances, or having difficulty not only finding words while speaking, but also organizing thoughts should all be evaluated carefully. Especially if the person does not notice these changes themselves, but family members observe a clear difference, forgetfulness should be taken seriously. The important distinction here is this:
Remembering a name late is not the same as experiencing cognitive difficulty severe enough to interfere with daily life. Dementia is not just forgetfulness. It involves memory, language, problem-solving, and other thinking abilities being affected enough to disrupt everyday functioning. That is why, when evaluating the situation, the key question is not only are they forgetting, but how much is this affecting their life? But if the symptoms started suddenly and are accompanied by speech problems, facial drooping, weakness on one side, sudden vision changes, or a severe headache, this should not be thought of as ordinary forgetfulness. Urgent evaluation is needed. Misconception 1. Every case of forgetfulness is the beginning of Alzheimer's. That is not true. Forgetfulness can arise from many different causes. Sleep disorders, stress, depression, medication side effects, nutritional problems, and other medical conditions are among them. Misconception 2, a single supplement can save your memory. That is an overly strong claim. Physical activity, protecting vascular health, keeping blood pressure under control, not smoking, and avoiding harmful levels of alcohol are important for overall brain health. A single miracle or magical supplement is not scientifically realistic. Misconception 3, memory loss is normal as you age. Some changes can happen with age, but clear cognitive decline that disrupts daily life cannot be considered normal. In most cases, it is not possible to explain a person's forgetfulness with a single cause. Also, someone saying, "I'm forgetful," is not necessarily the same as showing low performance on standardized cognitive tests. The information in this video may be helpful as guidance, but it does not replace personal evaluation. Let's sum it up in 3 points. 1. Forgetfulness does not always mean a serious brain disease. In many cases, distraction, poor sleep, stress, mood, and general health factors may contribute to this picture. 2. Memory is not just about storage. Attention, encoding, consolidation, and retrieval are all parts of a chain. When any link in that chain is strained, a person may feel forgetful. 3. Forgetfulness that disrupts daily life, progresses over time, or begins suddenly should be taken more seriously. Especially if there is functional decline, noticeable changes observed by family members, or neurological symptoms, professional evaluation is important. Sometimes forgetfulness is simply a side effect of a busy life, but sometimes it's the way your body and mind ask you for a little more attention. What seems to increase your forgetfulness the most? Lack of sleep, stress, or constantly interrupted attention during the day? You can write it in the comments. For scientific yet easy to understand health videos, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and like the video. See you in the next video. Wishing you healthy days.